Hey looters, it's Flutes here again, here to talk to you about D&D rogues again. I just love rogues. Today I want to talk about how often as a rogue you want to be this kind of like criminal mastermind, doing sly things in the underworld, but usually you're just this roguish fella or woman in your party that gets sneak attack and weaves around and sometimes is sneaky. But there's so much more you can do with your rogues. I want to show you how your rogue can put their underworld, criminal, slimy skills to benevolent uses, and the party can get in on the fun today on Flutes Loot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on an article we wrote about how rogues have all these different criminal professions that can be twisted around to be used benevolently, or at least for the party's sake, instead of just by the DMs, NPCs, and BBEG. The way we can do this is a few ways. One, the rogue also obviously is going to be a big part of it, but sometimes the least fun part of being a rogue is feeling like you're the only one who can do what you want to do. Like your plans are limited to you being stealthy while the party waits around. I know in my first campaign I was a rogue, and I found I often infiltrated places, impersonated people, was stealing things while my party just watched and just waited for their turn. And that wasn't so fun, so I want to include details today that the whole party can get in on the rogue schemes instead of just the rogue stealing the spotlight for too long. So the first criminal profession I want to talk about is the Blackmailer. Rogues can gather information on town guards, politicians, anybody to try to open some doors, grease some palms, and make things go in the party's favor. Often I see role-playing is just like talking to people and just trying to intimidate them or convince them or lie to them. But maybe do some homework and some preparation for those checks. Instead of just saying, hey, town guard, step aside so we can get into this bank, maybe beforehand you go to that town guard's home, find out what kind of family he has, and if he has any debts, that sort of stuff. You could say, hey, we see you've got some debts. We've got some gold we could send your way. Or, oh, it'd be a shame if something happened to your family. I know this sounds horrible. Like, evil parties are going to be like, hey, this is great stuff. But sometimes doing benevolent things, you just kind of got to bluff your way into it. And so you don't have to actually be evil to do these things. But just keep in mind, like, some party members might not be okay with it. And maybe you need to explain, like, you don't actually want to do anything harmful to anybody with these professions I'm talking about in the video. But back to the concept of the Blackmailer. If you just do some preparation ahead of time, you can learn details about different people in a town, and you can find out what makes them tick, what are their skeletons in their closets, what's something they're trying to accomplish, what's something important to them. And you can use that to your advantage. So blackmail could be positive or it could be something negative. Your party can help you by gathering information. Maybe you don't fit in at a local pub where all the guards hang out or all the tough guys, but your fighter or your barbarian does, because they're maybe more built and more that soldiery type, or maybe they have that soldier background where they can actually get into like certain places that are like after dark soldiers fight club sort of thing and gain some information about people. So the rogue doesn't have to do it all themselves. They can enlist the whole party to do this sort of information gathering. And so if you're not cluing into it yet, you don't have to be a rogue to do these things. It's just rogues are kind of famous for these sorts of criminal aspects of the game. So next time you've got some thieves guild to infiltrate, or a bad guy's got some sort of smuggling ring, figure out who's someone low on their totem pole through some scouting, and then see what they do during the day. If you don't think you can like take them out and impersonate them, take their spot, then maybe you can just learn a little bit about them and see, why are they doing this job? Is it just for the money, or do they owe them something? Are they afraid for their lives? You'd be surprised what you could find out if the DM is quick on their feet. So going in alphabetical order, the next one that I want to talk about is Burglar, and this one seems kind of obvious. Most people picture rogues being stealthy, sneaking into places and stealing things. The rest of the party can help. They can make distractions out in the streets. They can help with their magic to gain information about a place, especially like with a wizard's arcane eye spell. That's a great way to gain intel. And in fact, your wizard could set up like a telepathic link with all of you with Rary's telepathic bond. And so it's almost like you all have those invisible headsets the Avengers have where they can just talk to each other. But you don't have to talk. You can just do it in your mind to stay silent. So the rogue can be infiltrating, trying to pick a lock, while an arcane eye or someone else in the party is keeping watch to make sure that some guard or anybody is not coming back. If they are, then the rogue can hurry and hide and then wait for the coast to be clear. So burglary is a great way to have some fun as a rogue and as a party. It doesn't have to be some in-depth heist that the DM sets up. It could just be breaking into some back room in a tavern. It could be breaking into someone's closet. Like, it can be really simple things. Don't think a heist has to be some huge Ocean's 11 production. Next profession on the list is the enforcer. So rogues can be tough guys too. To get sneak attack, you only need to use a finesse weapon, but you don't have to use the dex part of that finesse weapon. You could use your strength and be a beefy, athletic rogue. That's totally fine. But if you're not, maybe someone in the party is. The point is, you can hire yourself out as an enforcer to make some extra money or to gain some information. If you are saying, okay, the local merchants guild, they have all these guards, but we want to get some information and get in on this. Maybe the guards get paid off and they end up leaving, or something else happens, like the blackmail I mentioned earlier. Well, they're going to need new guards. Might as well be you. So you could be the enforcers for these merchants. This could mean you guard mercantile goods, or you do the kind of slimy job of going and shaking down people for their debts. But it is a good way to make some money, and it is a good way to have some fun. Alternatively, you could also enact your own form of justice. If you've set yourself up to be enforcers for some evil politician or merchant that does payday loans for poor peasants to enlist them into their servitude, you could become their enforcer, the one who goes and shakes down these people for their debts and say, hey, we're going to pay your debt for you. You just got to get out of here. Or you got to say that we roughed you up real good. You could actually help these people while gaining information, or even gaining some allies who could help you against them by rallying the people that are being oppressed by these evil dudes, and then go at them with the help of a whole town. Also, being an enforcer is a great way to learn the secrets of an organization. I've seen many stories, I'm sure you have as well, where the good guys infiltrate and learn a lot of information, and then towards the end of a tale, they backstab the bad guys with all the information they gathered, and they're in a good position to create real change. Spellcasters in the party can be especially useful for this, because if you need to shake someone down who obviously can't pay you back, you could get them out of dodge by using something like the Feign Death spell, where it looks like that you took them out, you bring them in, and then they tell you, yeah, just go dispose of them, we're glad they're gone. And then, freedom! They're good to go. A little bit of a stretch, but if your DM's creative and is going to be yes-anding your ideas like this, there's a lot of fun opportunities like that. Next one, speaking of merchants, is the fence, which means a black market middleman. So if you've played Skyrim, it's always a bummer when you steal items that you want to be able to sell for a profit, but it's marked in the game as being stolen, so merchants don't want to buy it. But if you find a fence in the Thieves Guild, the term for someone who's this middleman, like black market salesman, they'll buy your stuff because they have a secret network, the black market, let's say, and they can find buyers and they know who's interested in different goods. And so if you are proactively stealing things, you could find a fence, or you could establish yourself as a fence in a local town. If you know that the BBEG is after some sort of item and they've hired people to steal it, you might do well to be a fence, and you can keep your ear to the ground of who is moving what kind of goods and services around. Additionally, you might be able to intercept certain items that have been stolen. Instead of just taking out the people, you could just buy it back, and then the king or whoever hired you could pay you for what it took to get that item as a professional courtesy and no bloodshed. I don't know, but there's a lot of different ways you could establish yourself as a fence and have some fun, so that in your downtime it's not always just, oh, we have a magic item, let's go find someone who will buy it, and we roll low on a D100 and we find that we only have like some shady guy. You could be that shady guy that wants to buy magic items from lowlives and those of the underworld. Alright, next one is the forger. So there's a lot of things that you can forge if you are good with a forgery kit. You could forge suicide notes, diaries that discuss a secret affair. You could create deeds for land that you want or need. You could create certificates of authenticity for diamonds to make them seem like they're worth more than they are, and then sell them to someone who wants to use some sort of resurrection spell, and then it actually won't work for them because those were not the gold worth of diamonds that they thought they were. You could also create fake ritual items for some cult, or you could create fake dragon eggs or holy relics. This is less about like your documents and like actual hard goods that you're faking. Another way you could frame the forger is a counterfeiter. So maybe you want to create fake coins. Maybe you want to create an inflation problem in a certain village, for who knows why. Maybe you just want to be the economancer or whatever it was that someone made that video on. You could also provide fake spell components to wizards so that when you want to fight them, their spell components won't actually work. That'll be a big plus. They might use an arcane focus, but if it's something that is specific that the arcane focus won't cover, you could really put them on their back foot with a fake item that they don't find out until it's too late. And you could cast Locate Object to find people who have taken your forged or counterfeited items. So you can actually set up kind of like a tracking transmitter on people with the Locate Object spell if someone in the party has that. You could also have fun with spells like Illusory Script if you're an arcane trickster or if someone in the party has that spell. But keep in mind that you might seem like the roguish type and it'll scream to them that you're trying to sell or pass off forgeries. This guy's not legit. So you might want to have someone else in the party who seems more trustworthy, knowingly so, or because they're fooled into doing it. You could have them be the face behind your forgery and get them to sell or plant whatever it is you're trying to do. Paladins and clerics would do well with this because they might seem more trustworthy than yourself. So if you stay out of sight after you've forged a document or an item, maybe they can do the talking. Wizards could also have fun with the Fabricate spell to help you with your forgeries. I highly recommend trying that out, especially if you and your wizard have different skill proficiencies, to really sell these things and make some Class A counterfeit items. So obviously that one kind of overlaps with Blackmailer because you could forge secret affair diaries like I mentioned, or notes that were going between a politician and a local barmaid, or the queen and a local bard, who knows, and try to set them up as if they've been having this affair and it would ruin their reputation. Well, that might put them in a tough spot where they need to deal with you and they need to come at you, and maybe you can set a trap, or you could make a deal with them. It's up to you. And on that note, we get on to the framer profession. Illusionist wizards can have a lot of fun with this, as they can make things seem as if something happened that did not. You could create a scream in the night after you've already forged some sort of note. The key here is to kind of sick the lawmen on whoever your target is. If you're in a crowded merchant's bazaar, you and your party can spread out while you pick a coin purse from someone, or maybe even take your own coin purse and plant it on someone else in the bazaar, while someone says, "Hey, that guy took my coin purse," or something like that. Or, "Hey, this guy's sneaking around, what's he doing?" And then they can find the framed items on that person. If you really want to have some fun, you can kind of double up with the forger here. If you want to steal a princess's ancestral pendant necklace from around her neck while framing someone else for the theft, you could forge a copy with the Fabricate spell or with your own skills as a jeweler. With that fabrication, you could take away her necklace and then plant the fabrication on someone in the crowd and say, "Hey, that guy's got the necklace. I see it hanging out of his pocket. He stole it." And then they take him away and they think they've got the princess's necklace back, but really the true one is in your pocket. And if you want to get really dark, you could frame people for murder too. Alright, next one is what everyone seems to do, whether they know it or not. They are the haggler. Rogues can be really good at this, so can bards. Anyone who is proficient in like investigation to find good buyers, and persuasion or deception, whatever, those charisma skill checks, to go back and forth a little bit and haggle prices. But that can be a little bit boring, and it usually just becomes the DM and the player kind of have like a staring contest to see who's going to budge first on the prices. So instead, have some fun offering favors and other goods and services instead of just gold for what you're haggling for, or what people are haggling you for. I recently had some fun. Instead of trying to pay a merchant for some expensive jewels for some spell components for a high-level wizard, I said, "What do you want? What would it take? What would you trade?" And they said an airship, and I'm like, "Oh, great. Well, yeah, I'll get you an airship, sure." And so obviously it's going to be difficult to do that, but it's fun to kind of create your own side quest with some big decision like this and say, "Okay, you want a frigate, airship? Yeah, I'll get you one." And then the rest of your sessions, you're going to be thinking, okay, how am I going to get that airship? It's just this little thing in the back of your mind to keep things interesting and give you something to look for. And give the DM something to look for to reward your role-playing and say, okay, is there going to be an opportunity to give this player a chance to get this airship? What's going to be the cost to get it? And have some fun that way. You might also focus on your proficiency with history, or if you have a background that gives you some sort of in with different groups, like if you have a sage background at a library or the acolyte background at different temples, you might be able to haggle better in those places, or find people that they regularly trade with and say, okay, I'm coming from this organization, they'll be more willing to haggle with me because of that rapport. Or you might know some history between that organization and whoever you're trying to haggle with, so that you can maybe like call in a favor, let's say, or tell them, you know, we've done so much business together, why would you risk it over 5 gold? And you'll be like, all right, 5 gold. And so obviously that's not a lot, 5 gold, but maybe you could use it to a much greater sum. Who knows? Maybe you're creative. And since you're not stealing anything as a haggler, you're trying to make legitimate deals. You could be a little bit more manipulative and have someone in the party that has a charm spell or otherwise can intimidate with their muscle to say, okay, yeah, we're haggling with you, but you don't want to know what happens if you give us a raw deal. Which is not to say you're going to murder hobo them if they don't give you a good deal. But it is saying, okay, you know, we're powerful people. We have a show of force. We've got our big barbarian standing there with his muscles, and we've got our fighter there, and she's got all these weapons and all this weapon training. You want us on your side. Maybe not now, but things are going to start getting rough in this town. You know that things aren't going too well, and merchants are going to start getting ransacked by opportunists. So maybe you should get us on your side. You know, that sort of stuff. It doesn't have to be a spoken thing. Maybe you could say to the DM, I'm trying to subtly tell them that we will help them if things go wrong around here, but if they give us a raw deal, they're on their own. And so it's not about being a murder hobo, but it is about making allies or cutting ties with people who don't treat you well. You could also create demand within a city for whatever you're trying to haggle for. If you want to sell something at a higher price or buy something cheaply, you could show up as a bunch of fake buyers for this product or this item that you want to buy. So everyone in the party could take turns coming up to this merchant and saying, oh, we want to buy this, but they all find something wrong with it. And so the merchant starts to panic and say, maybe I'm not going to be able to sell this. There's something wrong with it. Like, everyone's turning it down for different reasons. And then you show up, you're last person in the party, and they're willing to make a raw deal and say, like, oh, there's these things wrong with it, and I hear it's not as good as people initially thought, so let's cut the price. And the merchant will say, yeah, I gotta get rid of it, I don't want to take a loss on this. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. Just be creative and think a little economically. Alright, next one is the Highwayman. This one works especially well for scout archetype rogues because they are adept at scouting things out and setting up ambushes. And so you don't have to be robbing people necessarily, but you could set up roadblocks that stop a merchant's wagon and you could just sneak in and steal something. Or you could actually be there and be present and say, hey, we have this demand, we know you have so-and-so in your merchant's caravan, and they've done this bad thing, give them up and we'll let you pass, but otherwise there's going to be trouble. You know, there's a lot of different ways you could go about it. You could also just set up a roadblock, and while they're trying to clear it, you could sabotage a wagon, you could scare off their horses, you could assassinate their horses. I know a lot of people don't like to harm the animals, I'm just saying hypothetically. You could do a lot of different things. You could even jump into the wagon at the back and be stowaways. You know, do that railroad life, hobos in the back cart of a train, like that sort of stuff. You might be able to even nab someone from the caravan and replace them with someone in your party who's going to impersonate them. So you've got this person of interest as a hostage, or you rescued someone who was kidnapped. You know, whoever the person of interest is, you've now kind of turned the tables and become a mole within whatever organization you've infiltrated while freeing someone or something from that organization. It could also be something more simple where it's maybe not like a whole caravan you're trying to stop or a big procession, but maybe it's just a few people traveling, and you could like bury someone in your party till only their head is sticking up out of the ground, and that'll get people's attention and they could like beg for help. Or you could do something more simple and less compromising and just have someone laying on the side of the road and be waiting for a good Samaritan to come and help them. Some people might be a little bit leery of this if they're street smart with the roads and they know that people can try to distract people while they're traveling to set them up for ambushes. But yeah, if it's someone a little less assuming, you could get the best of them as a highwayman. And especially if you have a spellcaster, lay down a fog cloud for everybody, or put some grease out on the road so that people slip around. It'll make a good ambush, and that cover of the fog or the slipperiness of the grease will add some fun for spells that are good, but people don't always use that often. So find those examples, those opportunities to use them, and enjoy it. So if you as a rogue are doing dirty deeds done dirt cheap, you're going to need someone to launder your money. Maybe it might as well be you. Acquire some sort of small business that maybe has an owner that, again, could be blackmailed to help you, or someone who could just be in on the job who wants to help you launder some money. Think about what kind of businesses would do this. Maybe you bring in animal meat to a butcher, and you exaggerate how much meat you're bringing in for sale while you launder money through there. This is obviously less important in most campaigns where taxes aren't a thing, but if you're part of a big city and you're going to be there a lot, you might want to do something with ill-gotten gains instead of having guards or town politicians or any lawman who gets their eye on you, so that it doesn't look like you're just accumulating all this wealth out of nowhere and they start investigating you. This will also help if you are counterfeiting coins or you've encountered counterfeiting coins. So just keep in mind, if you're going to set up any sort of criminal underground or be involved in it, you're going to want some sort of money launderer so that the law doesn't catch up with you as it becomes increasingly obvious that you're not out adventuring in dragons' caves and taking their hoards, but you have all this money, and a lot of things have gone missing in the town. People will start to suspect you, and it might make it difficult for you to acquire allies in a town or even hire services and purchase goods. Also, if you want to be a money launderer, you could offer your services to warlords, criminal masterminds, or even politicians that accept bribes. You'll be able to gain a lot of information about them, and it'll again be you being proactive rogue with your benevolent criminal activities instead of just reactive and sneak attacking when things go wrong. After all, money moves mountains. Party members who are good with smithing or crafting in general might be able to help you with counterfeiting coins, and then they can get involved in the laundering. And wizards who can fabricate or even transmute materials could temporarily change gold coins or ingots of gold into just like wood boards. So it just looks like you're bringing a bunch of 2x4s into a woodsman's cottage when really you're smuggling a whole bunch of gold that you're going to bury there for later. Be creative. Obviously, it's a little bit dependent on what kind of game your DM's running and whether they're really going to hold you to these like criminal nuances. I'm not a criminal mastermind myself. This is just generic knowledge. Don't take it as like full proof that your DM won't find a loophole if they know a little bit more about economics than I do. The next profession is the liar. Now this comes up a lot. Everyone loves a good deception roll, especially when they roll high. But you don't always have to just lie when someone's trying to get at you or when you're trying to get in somewhere. You could just sow rumors around a town. If someone's having a hard time keeping their reputation up, maybe they have to go on leave from guard duty, maybe they have to stop making public appearances, and maybe they are more afraid for their lives. You could actually slow down a lot of criminal activities if you start sowing rumors about someone being a criminal. They have to start watching what they do a lot more because they know the town guards and the peasants and whoever kind of have their eye on them. And so you can sow a lot of discord and distrust and really shake things up if you're willing to sow some well-woven rumors. There's a lot of spells that can help you to tell convincing lies, whether it be charming someone, just a simple friend spell, even if they know that you influenced them afterwards. They might not know what you said that was a lie, especially if you told a bigger lie. They don't believe that, but maybe they believe the lesser lie, something like that. You could also use modify memory, so it's not really lying anymore, but you're planting a lie in someone's head, Inception style. They think it is their idea, it is their memory, and they'll sell it as such. So if you can have someone perceive something that happened or just think that they saw something happen, you could really sow some lies in a community that could get someone in trouble. By the way, the Dungeon Master's Guide does have some rules about sowing rumors and how long it takes and how to be successful. So look that up if you want to learn what it might take to sow rumors. But talk to your DM and see if they agree with that table, or if they'd speed it up, slow it down, or do something else. Alright, the next profession I'm going to talk about is Kidnapper. So please do not just start nabbing children. I don't like that. You probably don't either. We are not night hags who are stealing away children to make them into our little night hag children. I do recommend finding out if some villain has a spouse or a cousin or anyone important to them. If you could just take them away and make that villain panic a little bit, you can kind of put them in your power. You don't have to have the intent to harm anyone, but you have to make the villain think you do. Yeah, you could kidnap a corrupt politician's child and force them to resign, but at least treat the kid right if you're gonna do this sort of thing. Just don't harm kids. It's not fun. Also, if you know that there's a corrupt organization, a great way to get the town guard looking into that organization is for someone important there to go missing. And if they report the missing person and the guards are gonna help investigate what happened to them, they kind of have to investigate that organization, so they might even consider not reporting the person as kidnapped. And don't forget ransom. If you want to just make some money off of some corrupt merchant, politician, whatever, try getting them to cough up some coin to get back someone important to them. Party members who are good with nature and medicine could potentially create sleeping agents or that sort of stuff so that you can easily kidnap someone by just putting them to sleep instead of trying to harm them and do non-lethal damage with your melee attacks, because you're still beating up a person and that doesn't feel good in this way. So try to think of non-violent ways to just slip away with somebody, and then you can blindfold them and not have them ever see who you are or hear you. And you could even sow some lies. So going back to one of our earlier concepts of the liar, you could tell them lies about who you are, and then if you get a ransom to give them back, you've sown some very convincing rumors for who you were and why you took that person. And so if you make it seem like you just wanted some gold, but you were some other organization, you could make those organizations fight each other, because it's why are you kidnapping our people and ransoming us? Let's go to war. 2 different thieves guilds. That could happen. Alright, the next one is killer. So you can be a murderer, an assassin. Pretty straightforward. But you could do it for someone, or you could do it for vigilante reasons. I'll leave it up to you. Not a lot to say here, but maybe you have someone in the party who could aid you. Yeah, that's it. Killer. The next one, which I've kind of hinted at before, is the pickpocket. Stealing coins, stealing arcane focuses, stealing spell components, or planting things on people. Leave decoy items in their place. If someone has a knife that is magical, or you just want to remove their weapon before you fight, you could put a banana in their knife holster, and so when they draw their knife, they've just got a banana. You could have some fun that way. If you know of a corrupt merchant who's about to make a big deal, make a lot of money, you could opportunistically lie in wait at said deal, and afterwards nab a few things before it gets put in a secure bank or other place. So while money's moving, that's often the best time to strike and take what's yours. Again, distractions are going to be really important. If you want to pickpocket people, I've seen a lot of videos of professional pickpockets who often rely on some sort of distraction tactic, whether it be a crowd where you can bump into people, holding a piece of cardboard and kind of shoving it into someone's chest to kind of distract their vision going downward, but also give them that physical stimuli that someone's touching my chest. I don't feel what's going on with my pockets. Those are the sort of things you can get going. Your bard could play a song and sing in a way that enchants the crowd and makes them forget all their worries and what's in their pockets. You could have your wizard, your sorcerer, doing some prestidigitation fireworks just to make some kids happy, and maybe the person you're trying to pickpocket looks to see all the kids gathered around for some fireworks. There's a lot of ways to do distractions. Oh, and your barbarian could start a fight. Great distraction. Next up is the Saboteur. You could jam a door shut just at the same time you lay down some fire that's going to burn a place down, or some poison gas that's about to suffocate everyone. If your enemy has an important machine that can be used violently, remove certain parts of that machine so it doesn't work when they go to fight you. Get off your horse because you have a horse, based on my Rogue with a Horse video, and tie a rope around someone without them noticing, around their ankle, and then ride off with your horse and drag them behind you. Yeah, it's morbid and that sucks for them, but I bet you've never done that in D&D before, and you'll have some fun. You could also be a saboteur of love. You could be a mastermind rogue who sees what kind of man the princess is looking for, and then secretly woo her and get her to abandon the ideas that her father has for the kingdom's future, and get her to run away with you, or perhaps. So it's almost like a kidnapping sort of thing, but she fell in love with you and came with you. There's a lot of ways to sabotage, whether it be physical mechanisms or sabotaging relationships. A saboteur could also aim for an army's food or water supply, or any town that's using those things. A criminal organization, you could make it so that their water supply is not arriving, or their food is rotten, and it can put them in a tough spot. If you have an artificer in the party, they can help you a lot with the physical, mechanical saboteur moves, especially with machines like I mentioned. And anyone in the party with high charisma could persuade someone based on that person's own goals and values to help you. And when in doubt, just put down some grease right outside a door so that when everyone comes barreling out to try to fight you, they just all fall and they create like a human mound. And so everyone behind them can't get out. And then ditch out the window, shut the window, and start a fire. And then on the other side, trap them in. There's a lot of ways you could do it. Have some fun. All right, we're getting towards the end. We're in Smuggler now. You could become a smuggler, whether it be tariffed goods that you're smuggling into a country, or people that you're trying to smuggle out of somewhere, or vice versa. Get people in, get certain things out. Get stolen items out of one country and take them somewhere else and sell them to a king. This happened in Critical Role, where they had special items that were important to a certain country, and they curried favor by giving it as a gift. You could run an underground railroad for freeing slaves, and you could secure that they have a place to go. If there's anywhere in your setting where certain medicines are outlawed, or certain magics that can heal people are outlawed, you could smuggle in medicines, healing potions, or even bring in healers. If there's certain religions that are not tolerated somewhere, and people of that religion have to kind of like lie low and not reveal who they are, they might miss being able to speak with their religious leaders, or they may have issues where they need to see their religious leaders, and you could bring them in to subtly meet with those people. This could also help you to overthrow certain governments where people are being oppressed in any way, and you could smuggle in or help them smuggle in and out people to show that there are people that can help them, and you could create a network of NPCs that will help you if you want to rise up against a certain kingdom, or at least they'll be able to start a riot somewhere to distract the main military forces so that you can sneak in the back way to the throne and take someone out, because, you know, killer background, like I mentioned earlier. Additionally, if there's a snitch in an organization, you may need to smuggle them out to ensure that they are safe as a reward for them talking. They put themselves in danger and they need to get out of there. So that might be part of the deal, is you become a smuggler for someone who turncoat. If you have someone attractive in the party with a high charisma score, they can distract guards or whomever is guarding a border so they look the other way. You could use someone who is just persuasive in general and pay the guards a little bit of a bribe to look the other way. Or you could just use your enchanter wizard and freeze the two guards in place so they actually can't move and wipe their memories. You know, it's a more heavy-handed magical way to do it, but anyway, you gotta smuggle people and things, so you gotta get past certain people. Smugglers often have pretty large wagons or organizations that have upkeep and supplies and different people along the way, and your party's going to act as insurance, basically, protection for that smuggling process. Next profession is the spy. Lie in wait, infiltrate different organizations, play the long game, and convince them that you are one of them. Gain information that you wouldn't otherwise. Pass that information to the right people at the right time. Being a spy can incorporate basically anything else of the different roguish professions I've mentioned, but the spy kind of plays the long game and waits for their moment. There's a whole background devoted to being a spy, so maybe you could make that like your whole character is a spy in a foreign land, and they're waiting for their moment to tell their own national forces when to invade and from where. Or maybe it's something more simple of when a certain king is going to pass away, and that's a good time to create civil unrest about who's going to take over the throne, because the prince gets kidnapped right as his father dies. And so there's just this vacancy. It could create a lot of civil unrest, and it could lead to a really divided nation that you could take advantage of. You could even be a spy who plays multiple parts in a country. If you're good with a disguise kit and you have an alias, or you use the disguise self spell, or someone in the party does, you could play the part of different people in that country. You could even remove them and replace them with people who impersonate them and play the long game as if you were still that person. You want to have a lot of history about that person so that you can know their personal history, their relationships, and not reveal yourself. Alright, and the last one is the trap setter. In Xanathar's Guide, there is a little bit of rules for using mechanical traps. You can be that person as a rogue. You can set traps that are literally like there's a bear trap, or a gas trap, or a pit with spikes with a rug over it. You know, anyone can do this, but the rogue is good at deception if they take expertise in it, so they can really hide and camouflage, those sorts of things. Rangers can help with this a lot as well. But part of setting a trap isn't just setting up a mechanism, it's getting people to fall for the trap. So you need to know how to deceive with your movements, and instead of just being like, hey, I'm over here, come to me. You could try something more subtle, like looking like you haven't noticed people coming in a door and you have your back turned, and as they approach you, they find that they all stick in their feet in universal glue and they're stuck there, and then you turn around and you just start blasting. The rest of the party will have to help with this as well, because if your party situates themselves so in a room where it's like obvious that like they don't want to step on the rug or something, the enemies will suspect something's up. So the whole party has to sell it if you're setting up these kind of ambushes and you want to gain advantage with traps. There are also arcane traps like the symbol spell or glyph of warding that can be used with great effect. Arcane tricksters won't be able to get high enough spells to do the symbol spell, but glyph of warding is something they definitely can handle, though expensive. Okay, well, that's all the rogue professions we had. We just really tried to brainstorm in this article and then in this video all the different ways that rogues and anyone who's feeling roguish in the party can have some fun and give the DM some side things to worry about / have fun with. So what are some ideas that stuck out to you that I mentioned? What's something I didn't mention? Or what's a success you've had in your campaign, or complete failure where you tried to do something criminal like this? One thing that comes to mind is interrogation or torture. I didn't really want to list that one here because that's not necessarily like a rogue specialty, but it's along the same lines. What other things can you come up with? Cast sending in the comment section below, and make sure that you also cast identify on the subscribe and like buttons so that you can know when other videos are going to come out from us. And also check out flutesloot.com. We have almost 100 articles. We're really proud of our writing. We try to do a weekly article, so bookmark us and keep visiting. So again, I'm Flutes, and I hope that your roguish endeavors go off without a hitch, and I'll see you next time.